5 So I'm Mandana Khanie from University College London, Institute for Environmental Design and Engineering, and I will give you an overview about subtask B, visual and non-visual user requirements. The presentation is more or less about the list of projects that we are doing within this subtask. But I will start with the importance of the subtask, which relates to, as its name says, human user requirements. Today we know that we are all spending 90% of the time indoors, and from that 10% left, I guess partially we're spending also in other enclosed environments. And this is affecting us and shaping us in various ways. To illustrate it in a different way, we are exposed to several loads or stimuli, namely light, temperature, air composition, acoustics, and we are within our field of work, all of us here, I think we're on the more or less the same page. We are coming up with systems and tools and control systems or control strategies in order to direct these loads into the effects that we want. As Mark, you mentioned, we want some simple solutions, but as I think Brandon, you also mentioned that it's really important to look at all of these together. But the focus of our task is, of course, within this context with the human in the center, and looking particularly, especially to light and daylight, as we all know. This is more sensitized at the moment in these days because we are moving from our understanding, our visual understanding or photometric understanding of our visual environment to a much more complex spectral definitions and non-visual aspects. So this transition is happening now, and a lot of underlying complexity comes with it. So the main objective, the final goal of this task is to address both often contrasting visual and non-visual requirements in an effective, resource-efficient way. And that last part is, of course, a big question. Is it within the current goals or the decarbonization goals? Are we aligned? How aligned are we when talking about the health and comfort of the humans? And if we zoom out, where does that stand? So to address these issues within this subtask, we have several activities, and I will go through these activities in order to give you an idea of what we are working with. So later on, when you look at our report, you know what to look for. And this is the idea of this presentation. So one of the main starting activities is to, or the tasks or activities that are bundled together under this is about improved understanding of visual environments for humans. So here a lot of the focus of the activities that we have are on view and glare dilemma, which is, I guess, more and more important. Or at the moment we know with the climate change, with the overheating conditions that we have, the use of shading devices are becoming, we discussed it a little bit now, like how to implement them. Of course, they are the embodied carbon that they have might not be the most optimal aspect of it, but we have to deal with this dilemma of how to reduce the glare and the overheating while thinking about the view. So some of these fundamental activities are about the fundamentals aspects of the view and the user requirement for view and glare. The view aspect of it is important. I mean, of course, we want to get rid of that overheating. We want to have some resilient facade. But we have to consider that there are several benefits, and that's what makes this dilemma, that there are several benefits from this window view related to it's a food for our eyes. It has it could affect the comfort perception in general when we are thinking about the human in the center. It has effects on our gaze behavior, and of course, it also has financial values. That is a part that somewhat plays an important role. So the activities that we have under this subtask, or under this task under the subtask, I'm always confused with that, partially relate to understanding the visual system, the visual disposition, the differences that we have. This is so sensitive as to the difference between one eye to the other eye in terms of perception of the glare, for example, or perception of the view. It is really important in the research studies that we do to consider these kind of visual dispositions. So we are working on that and understanding what are the main aspects to be included or incorporated in this kind of research. A large part of it is, again, focusing on identifying and defining view and glare in relation to the shading devices, with sort of main result being improved understanding of view and glare relative to shading devices. I will just quickly show 2 example projects related to this. So here is about characterization of view, again, in related to shadings, amount of view, and the photometric compositions. What are the relations between the subjective responses and the photometric composition created by the different shading or different facades? So we have tried to explore this in a study that is under revision and try to address or test several hypotheses of what kind of photometric compositions are created with different shading devices. How does that affect our perception of the view in relative to the shading devices? So it's not about the quality of the view, it's just the view in relation to the shading device. Another quick project to mention is how we can, Mark, I think you mentioned some invisible, oh, sorry, Brandon, you mentioned some invisible aspects of the architecture that can be highlighted a little bit better. I think this is a little bit towards that, like how we can show several of these aspects, to combine aspects of like visual and visual view together, so it makes it easier to understand the spatial potential that we are creating in that space. So this is a little bit towards that. In another activity, it's a lot more focused on the window view quality. What are the preferences? What are the descriptors? This is a really interesting project as it's the same protocol being used in collaboration of several different groups. Here in these little layouts, you see the sort of the groups, really the research groups that are involved. Of course, you have to search what is NTNU and so on, but these are the different universities or different research groups that are involved. And in this case, we are using the same protocol across these different institutes, across these different countries, to address some of these questions. So the results coming from this in terms of application will be very interesting to see and understand how we can address it in the view. The second activity, the third activity relates to relations between, I forgot to mention, we will have the next presentation. It will be specifically on the dynamics and view perception, so that you can look forward to. The third activity that we have addresses the relation between the window view and urban morphology. So in the context of cities like San Francisco, New York, where we have the higher density, a lot of obstructions, a lot of different type of view and art and heritage that can be considered in there. What is a good view and what is not a good view? How we can consider this, and what kind of methodologies can we come up with to address that and to also include it in the quality of the view. And the main activities that are happening here tries to go towards a roadmap for the design of daylighting, electrical and view quality in the neighborhood level. So at the end, we are hoping to get a roadmap and a list of different methods to make this evaluation. The fourth activity, new development for non-visual aspects. Here again, we have several activities that are both measurements-based and simulation-based, trying to look at the non-visual aspects of the lighting and daylighting indoors. And the idea is here to also reach both for measurement and simulation guidelines that how this can be used, map the existing methods that we have and how they can be implemented by the ongoing projects. And as you can see, I have also mentioned some of these ongoing projects, the groups that are working with these specific tasks. And it's going to be in the collaboration. And finally, measurement and assessment methods of non-visual aspects. So this is also a very important aspect where we know that there is a lack of agreement about the recommendations. So this is the task and activities under this is also towards bridging this gap, understanding what we have now, how we can coordinate between the different groups, how we can come up with protocols that can be used across the research disciplines to address this lack of agreement. And yeah, that's me and the overview of the task.